on the south lawn of the White House. Everyone's assumption was that they hadn't worked for a two-state solution. And they would argue for a few years about what to do with the unresolved issues and what to do with the land war. But that the Israelis wish to remain a majority Jewish state, but to be at peace with their Palestinian neighbors who would have their own state if we could work out the myriad questions that had to be worked out. So we started with a different model. They started with a model here that they could share the future, and that they had not enough land to fight over, and they had to work together. So I think the real question is, the Middle East is now waiting for somebody to answer the now what question. Because I still believe that people everywhere would prefer to work together than be at war. There are very few places where, we had a special problem in Bosnia because we couldn't make the peace without the Bosnian Serbs, and then from the beginning, either a hardline Serbian government or their Russian sponsors were always pushing for paralysis. They're still way better off than they were when they were slaughtering each other in massive numbers. But, I hope that'll be resolved someday. But this is different because they decided to share the future from the beginning and to guarantee everybody a role in it.
So you've talked about war. The current war in Europe, which threatens us all, is happening because of Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. How do you see the possibility of any kind of negotiation? Anything even based on this kind of thing or any other kind of thing right now? How do you see that ending?
It's extremely difficult, but it's a whole other subject. And the difference between the Russia-Ukraine conflict and Israel-Palestine, or what happened in Northern Ireland, is that in the case of Israel and Palestine, in the case of Northern Ireland, you have two sides in conflict, but both of whom have a cause that is, you could say is reasonable. United Kingdom on one side, United Ireland on the other. The trouble is, I'm afraid there's no justification for what has happened to Ukraine. So I think it's a different category of conflict. But one principle is the same, which is once you determine what is the right outcome, and in my view the right outcome is that the aggression in Ukraine does not succeed, then you don't give up. I mean, the one thing I think that was very clear about the Northern Ireland peace process, for whatever reasons, is that none of us were prepared to give up on it at any point in time. We never really resigned, even though at points it did look absolutely impossible. And so I think if you want to resolve anything, you've got to decide, first of all, what is the just and the fair outcome, and then you've got to keep committed, no matter what the obstacles.
Yeah, if I could just say one thing, I think one of the things that everyone needs to understand, trying to make sense of Ukraine and comparing it to what happened here, none of us thought we would stay for life. We all believed in democracy within our own jurisdictions. I mean, I love being president. If we didn't have the term limit, they had to take me out in a pine box and beat me. But I believed in it because I don't think anybody should stay in power for life. If you determine to stay for life, then the only thing you really care about is breaking the opposition. And it's very hard to get a good outcome. And you see that now in Mr. Putin's Russia. He never agreed with Boris Yeltsin when Yeltsin promised me, and actually signed an agreement, that he would, with John Major, your predecessor, and with NATO, that he would respect the territorial integrity of Ukraine.
After you urged them to give up their nuclear weapons.
I did. And that was the right decision at the time. They were the third biggest nuclear power in the world. Brazil had an active nuclear program. India had an active nuclear program, still does. Pakistan did. But South Africa and Brazil were about to join. And they totally gave up their programs because of what we were doing. So Ukraine played a very positive role there. And we tried in turn to guarantee their territorial integrity. But I will give this to Mr. Putin. He was totally honest with me. He told me 3 years before the invasion of Crimea that he did not agree with Yeltsin, and Yeltsin never got this adopted by the Duma. It was not a treaty, he wasn't bound by it, and he didn't agree with it. But he always wanted to reconstitute in some form or fashion the Soviet Union or a capitalist version of it. And so we can't forget that the fight for democracy goes on even as we try to use democracy here by giving everybody a say and making sure everybody was represented to make a better future.
In retrospect, do you regret having persuaded them to give up their nuclear weapons?
No, because at the time, I had reason to believe that we could build a world with fewer nuclear weapons. And I had reason to believe that I knew Boris Yeltsin would keep his word. He wasn't an imperialist. But I regret what happened.
And Prime Minister Ahern, finally, Jerry Adams, when this was signed, said that it's just a bridge towards a united Ireland. Is that what it is? Is that what's going to happen? Do you see that happening in your lifetime?
I think what will continue on it's the balance between union with the UK and unity within the island, and those two separate traditions will continue to peacefully put forward their case. And Brexit, I think, has heightened the debate. There's far more debate. You can't go to university now anywhere in the island, but they're not debating something about unification one way or the other. But it's been done peacefully and it's been done open. I think it's still a long way off. There's a clause in the agreement that says there can be plebiscites every so often. We haven't had one in 25 years because we haven't got stability of institutions. My view is simple enough. Until there's stability of the institutions, it's stupid to have a referendum. And secondly, the preparatory work is only starting. It's only starting in academic life at the moment. So it's a long way off, but the aspiration will continue. But there's two separate, there's aspiration to stay close to the UK, as a part of the UK, or aspiration for United Ireland. So I think those two issues are the identity issues. But the Good Friday Agreement, remember, is you can be British, you can be Irish, you can be both. I think that served us well for now. It will continue to be challenged.
President Clinton, Prime Minister Blair, Prime Minister Ahern, thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.